So today I'm going to start talking about coding standards in Java. So I've prepared a few things here, but at the time of recording, I've installed Java JDK 12 and Eclipse IDE 4. So I can show that here. That's the version there. But coding standards are important and are relevant to commercial enterprise level development. From what I've learned over the years is that a number of employers will actually have their own common naming conventions. Typically they all follow the same rules though that you learned in university or on websites, anywhere really. They all have the same typical rules, and quite often enough actually they follow suit with other languages like C#, C++, Python, etc. So yeah, first things first is creating a class. We'll be naming it, adding some comments, printing a line. So let's go ahead. So what you'll do first off in Eclipse here is you can just create a new project. So what I do here is I type in new Java package. You can also right click new project, or you can do a package as well. So for whole namesake here, I just click on that, and then I named it Java tutorial, and it will create a source folder for you. And in that source folder, then you can go to here and create package, and then name it whatever you would like. I've named mine Java tutorial. And then inside this Java tutorial, I've set up a folder. And I think by default, package presentation is set to flat. So it'll show you this like kind of weird style. I mean, if you're comfortable with that, that's great. But what I like to do is I like to go up here into this three little dots here, click package presentation, and then go to hierarchical instead. It just shows a little better. So yeah, then go here, create a new folder, and then call that whatever you'd like. I've called mine proper, just because that's where I've kept all the files that are supposedly proper coding standards. So to create a class, you go here, create new, create class, and you can name it whatever you'd like, and then click finish, and that will go. So let's just do that here. I'll name mine, let's see. So right off the bat, I'll show you how to write comments. There's a couple variations. Long comments, where you can span over large areas, go like this. So slash and an asterisk, and it will actually create more lines for you if you're inside of the comment. So if you keep pressing enter, you can just keep creating more if you'd like. And typically it creates the end of the comment for you. So what will happen is if you have like a variable or something, let's call it an int variable, equals 1, that whole thing will be commented out. So if you have any code inside of a comment, it won't run in the compiler. So let's just say this is a comment. The other way to write comments is with 2 slashes, and I'll write this is also a comment. So that's commented out. Typically comments are written for literally anything. Mostly what I like to write comments for is any other developers working on a project. It's extremely helpful to them to have like notes or what this code is doing or where it's going. So yeah, that's super handy. So let's just get started on creating some logic here. So I'll create a public class, and public just means that it's accessible through any class. There's also a few other variations like private, but yeah, I won't get into that today. Oops. So public class, oops, not class, sorry, public static void name. Because if you notice here, this public class has already been declared here. So what I want to do is I want to create just some logic here, a method that will run something. So what we'll do is we'll maybe do a print line. So if I go here, print a string, we could just do this. And this is just your basic function. And then if you want to print something, system out, print line, just like so. And then inside of this, you can actually put in whatever you like, but it has to be a string. So strings are made by these quotation marks, and I can just write hello. And I want to create another one here just to demonstrate that if I just try and put in just hello in there, it'll actually error and it say it can't do anything because it's not a variable. So you can actually put variables inside of here, which is separate from just declaring it as a regular string. But more on that later. So if you just go ahead and run this, in the console down here, it will actually just print hello. And you can do whatever you want. See? Just like that. Alright. So moving on. A second thing I would like to talk about is variables, ints, and enumerators. So those are very, quite simple. What I'll do here again is I'll actually create a new class for this. And I'll call it, let's see, module x2. Alright. So the first thing is I'm going to create an integer. So I'm not going to make it public accessible by just making it public. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but because this variable is nested inside of this class, you don't have to. So what you can do is you can just type in static int, and then I'll just call it variable int. Variable int is actually fine. And I'll just make it 32. Of course, you don't have to declare it as a number or anything like that. You could just leave it blank and then set it later. But for information's sake, I'll just make it a number. Another thing to note too is that static allows it to actually be accessed through methods or constructors. So for example, the public static void main method that we created earlier, it wouldn't actually allow it to access it at all if it wasn't static. So if I take this and I change that just to an int variable, it actually doesn't know where it is. It can't make a reference to where it is. And that's just inherent to Java. So if you go static, and that red line is gone, and now it will work. So let's create a few more here. So let's say static, let's create a float. Let's call it variable float. And floats are any number that is like a decimal, a double, anything like that. So if you want to put like 6.66, you have to put an F beside it as a float, and that will resolve. Anything really works that's a decimal. So 1.0. If you just put in the number, it will make it a decimal. So if you just put a 1F or 2F, whatever, etc., if you print the line, it will actually make it 3.0, and so that's how that works. But for information here, I'll just do 3.14. Yeah, that's as much as I know of pi. What's next here? We can make a character. So a character is literally exactly what it is. It's just a character. So that's declared by these single quotes, and you can make it like a W, or an S, even a 1. Numbers work as well. Any character that works. I think special characters work as well, like quotations and exclamation marks. But for information's sake, I'll just leave it W. Another one is a Boolean. So we can create a Boolean here, and that only could just be true or false. So whatever one you pick, I'll pick true here. And then the last one here that I'll use is a string. So it's very simple. Any strings are tied together with quotes. So I'll just call this variable string, and then I'll make a quote, and I'll just type in hello. And that's how you create those variables. Very simple. Let's just save that here. And then, next is enumerators. So the way to do that is just to create enum. I don't know, let's just go with colors, I guess. I'm going to create that. And they're all separated by commas. If you want to create more, so if I just wanted red, the naming convention for enums is all capital letters, and that's just standard. So if I wanted red, I would separate it there, just with a colon, semicolon, sorry. But if I wanted more, like say orange, that's how you'd write that. But let's just keep going. Let's go through the rainbow here. Yellow, green, oops, blue, indigo, and violet. And that's how you create enums. And accessing these enums are also quite simple. So if you wanted to do a system out print line, what you can do is you can actually just type in the color, oops, and then you can make it blue. And that will print out color blue. But one thing you notice is that there is an error. So with enums, they're a little bit of a special case. You actually have to declare where it's looking. So first, I'm just going to do this. I'll make it, I don't know, my first color. Let's just say that, for example. And the naming convention for this is simple as well. So any kind of variable, like you noticed here as well, I've left it lowercase, and then any words after that will have an uppercase as its first letter. So variable character, variable float, all of that is all following the same convention. I'll finish this off here. Let's just say, blue. Oops. There we go. And then we can do first color. And that will also work. That's interesting. There we go. Another thing I wanted to brush on was something called concatenation. Basically what that means is you're just adding things together. So if you wanted to add two variables together, for example, you could set it up like this. Oops, I didn't want that there. Just like so. So I got a system out print line. I got this first variable, and you can actually add them together. So what that will do is I'll add this variable together with this variable, and it will output the addition, I guess, of both. So you've got 64. And compiling this is very simple. You can just run. If you don't see one in this list, you can just do run configuration. And then under Java application, you just type in new configuration, and it will pop up with this menu here. And if you browse, your project should be in here. And then same with this main class, it should be in here as well. And you can pick the one class that you're working from. So for me, that's module x2, so that's where I will be running that from. And then from then on, you can just click on run, and it will work. And as you can see, you can also do it this way as well, and you don't have to use it as a variable. And the third thing I wanted to talk about was class separation, organization, and kind of standards regarding around that. Often companies will use folders like util, short for utilities, and just throw common files inside of that. So for example, like typically I see variables and enums thrown into utility folders, or log management, and things like that. But for today, what we'll do is we'll just separate all of this stuff out and create a very clean, good file that could be used along a number of different ways, I guess. It's pretty relevant to like enterprise level development. So let's get started here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go into here, my main folder project, and I'll create a folder. I'll just call it and then in here I'll create a class. Let's see, what do I want to call that? Let's just say module X vars. So now that you've got that class in here, what you can do is you can actually go back in here and then just take these variables and just pop them inside of here. Now we talked before about having private and public variables. So you can actually set it to private, which will only be accessible inside of this file. Or you can do public, which will be accessed through this file, this file, this file, any file that you create in the future as well. So let's just go ahead and do that with all of them. There you go. So now you've got your vars on like this. And let's just create a fun little comment here. And just call this variables. Alright, let's go back here. Okay, so I can clean this up a bit more. We got enums. So we can actually throw all of our enumerators actually in util as well. So we'll go here, create a new class. There we go. Okay. So then what I'll do here is I'll get rid of those. And I will put those inside of here. Now, like I was saying before, because this is not listed as anything private, public, or final, or anything like that, you can actually just put in public so that it can be accessible throughout this, outside of this file. And then I'll go back here. Let's create another little comment, just so I can tell people what this is. Okay, so after moving all of these files, the first thing you notice too is that all of the links to the variables are broken. And the reason for that is, even though it's set publicly here, it doesn't know where to find those files. It's assuming that it's local, so to this file only, but it is no longer there anymore. So, to fix that, what you can do is you can actually just set it up to look for it. So, where is it here? It should be in module X, vars, yes, and then separate it by a dot, and there you go, you fixed it. So now it can look for the file module var, and then it will find the variable inside of that. And you can of course do that with every single one of them in here. So let's go ahead and fix all of these. The second thing is here is the enumerators were broken as well. Same thing, it just doesn't know where to look for it. And a lot of the time, conveniently, this little fixer thing here will show up where to import the file from. And you can actually import your entire enumerator file, and it should fix it. Another thing to note too is that you can access it without importing it as well. So if you didn't want to do it this method, you can go ahead and create a link just the same way you did with the variables to the file. So you go here, and then the method is called colors, and then inside of that enumerator method there's called blue. So if you wanted to pick blue, you pick blue or whatever color you want. And of course all of the options are there. So you got green, indigo, orange, etc. And if you just go ahead and run that file, it will actually do the exact same thing as the first one that we did. I actually got rid of it all. So So, lastly, what I wanted to talk about was the most important thing here is to keeping code clean. Um, Putting in enough descriptive variables, like for example this here variable int, um, that lets me know that it's a variable and it is an integer, along with the other ones as well, unit variable float. And you can get even more descriptive as well. So if you wanted to tell someone, hey, like this file is, for business, or this is for uh, employee entries, or whatever you want. Uh, as an example here, I could just say this is pi, character. You can actually, say this is character W. Or another convention too is you can separate it by underscores, and you can actually set it like that, just like so. So yeah, that's how you just kind of clean that up. You can actually clean up folders as well. But just another thing I wanted to note as well is that you don't want to have variables like A, B, C, D, or whatever. Like for example, if you set this up as A, B, C, D, E, nobody knows what that is. I mean, I suppose you could just write in a comment saying that A equals int 32, but nobody really knows what that is, and if for whatever reason it changes in the future, or it gets deleted, and it's declared somewhere else, there's no way you're going to find, unless you do some serious digging, of what these all are. So yeah, it's just not good. Make sure you put in descriptive methods, classes and variables. So if you want to name this something else, make sure that it's descriptive of what you're actually trying to achieve. Instead of lumping everything else into one folder too, like what we did before. We had your string outputs with your enumerators, with your variables, all in one file. That's not typically good practice. Typically you want to unlump, so to speak, into separate files, 1, 2, 3, 4 files, or whatever, however necessary, so that it just looks good and looks clean. So yeah, thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, feel free to leave them down at the bottom. Yeah, thank you for watching.